Mario Chavez, Caddo Commissioner. Hey, Mr. Mario, how are you this morning?
Hey, Robert, I'm great. Good morning to you, sir.
Now, you are also the chairman of the Caddo Commission's long-range planning group.
Committee. That's correct.
Okay.
The head cheese.
So you guys had a meeting yesterday about, I guess you had a couple of choices, a couple of options you are weighing. Do we build a fence around the Caddo Courthouse? Do
we
you
put a
install
porta potty?
a bathroom that's nicer than the one at my house on the corner? What exactly was discussed, and what have you decided to do?
We're actually going to look at it with a lot of the homeless groups around town, but the reason for the initial meeting was obviously the fence. We had a request that we needed a fence, and a couple of the reasons I chose to identify the problem for each reason and then come up with a solution as opposed to just, hey, let's just throw up a fence and kind of a fix-all. One of the reasons was obviously we had a lot of homeless people defecating on the lawn. I personally think if we just put a fence up, that's not going to stop that. It's just going to push it out into downtown. So I wanted to identify, would putting an outdoor restroom somewhere downtown help combat that? And then the second issue for the call for the fence was the security aspect. So we're reaching out to a security personnel or professional to get an assessment on the courthouse so that they can come in and identify what, if any, is the actual security risk of our courthouse. So then I think we can make an informed decision on should we get a fence, should we get barricades, should we get cameras, what type of upgraded system, if any, do we really need before we spend $200,000 on just a fence that I don't think is going to combat every specific thing that we're trying to combat.
Does Mario Chavez have an opinion on one or the other or neither or both?
Personally, Robert, I don't want a fence, first off. The fence, obviously, we would be the only courthouse in 64 parishes to put a fence around it. And I don't think that sends the right message to the people. Do I want a bathroom on the courthouse grounds? Well, absolutely not. But on the side of the building was our only option. But I think it was good because this started the conversations to say, okay, there is a problem. There's specific problems. One of those problems is the need for a restroom downtown. We don't have one. We don't have one for not only the homeless people, but just the people in general. If we have festival goers, if we have regular business, if we have people that are coming in from out of town, tourists, just walking around downtown, there's not a place for them to go.
Mario, wouldn't the Portland Loo? I know you've sent me pictures of that. It's a high-tech bathroom. Wouldn't that attract more homeless to downtown? Is that a concern?
You know, Erin, I thought about that. I don't really think there's a homeless network where they would, call their buddy in St. Louis and say, hey, you got to see this bathroom. You got to come down here. This is the place to live. And of course, I'm making a joke here, but no, the answer is no. I don't think having a couple of amenities. I'm from Los Angeles. If there's ever a place that attracts homeless people, you go down to Ventura Beach, and I guarantee you that's where that. If I was homeless, that's where I would want to live. I would panhandle my way to California to live on the beach. I wouldn't live in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Earlier this morning, Erin, in one of her news stories, and I don't know if it was a direct quote from the meeting, but it was what her news story said was a solution for the downtown homeless problem. So I guess my question would be, if there's a problem and you're seeking a solution, is the eventual solution to remove the homeless people from the courthouse area?
Well, and you see, Robert, I've thought of that too. And the fact of the matter is, you can't just go remove the homeless people. A lot of them, they actually want to live down there. You have some veterans that like living out in the open air. You have some people with mental illnesses. They're not actually breaking any rules by just loitering and being downtown. We don't have any ordinance against that. Thing that we
pardon
have
me,
created,
Mario, if you're saying that, and they're not breaking the law by sleeping on the lawn or using it as a toy or fill in the blank. But if you admit that, aren't you sort of surrendering the Caddo Courthouse grounds to the homeless population?
As of right now, there is no ordinance, Robert. However, this Thursday it will pass that we have deemed the courthouse grounds a park. So now there will be enforceable laws that the sheriff and the police department can actually go over there and enforce.
Well, meaning what? What they would have times when they couldn't be on the grounds? What would that include?
Absolutely. We're deeming the courthouse grounds a park. So just like the park next to my house closes at 10 p.m., you can't sleep in the park, can't set up a tent. Obviously, you're not supposed to use the bathroom on the park anyway. But that will give them an ordinance so that they can actually go over there and enforce. Right now, there's nothing. So they really can't say anything for somebody sleeping on there.
But the benches are on
city.
Yeah, and are we actually going to send police officers to remove homeless people from benches?
Remember, those are the city benches. A lot of people they don't know where to draw the line. I work for the parish. I can't enforce what goes on in the city, not on those benches. That's going to have to be a PD.
But surely our police department has way better things to do than to come run homeless people off the benches, correct?
Pardon me.
I agree with you, Aaron. I'd rather them be fighting crime than putting the homeless people in jail.
Let me jump in. So what Erin is says, and you can both comment, but specifically Mario, you. So what you're saying is we've got an option here. We can let them sleep on the lawn, or we can have Shreveport police shoo them away from the sidewalks, etc. That's sort of I'm not going to say Hobson's choice, but it's not a good one.
It's definitely a tough position that we're in, Robert. The good thing is the communication is at the forefront, and yesterday we left the meeting with 4 different homeless agencies, and I have all their business cards, and we've agreed to sit down and start looking at what can we do? Because we really need to. We need to really start looking at these tough questions. What can we do to help the majority of the homeless? Because as I said before, there's going to be some that will always be there. So for a lot of people to think that we can completely eradicate this, that's impossible. If you go to every other big city in America, you will see that there will always be a homeless population.
But Mario, it's true today. If I want to go sleep on a bench in front of the courthouse tonight, there's not a law to keep me from doing that. Even if you do declare the courthouse a park, I can still sleep on that bench. City police, there's no law against me sleeping on that bench, right?
You're correct.
So you're not going to run them off from the courthouse. They'll just be on the benches.
We're going to run them off from the lawn, and I think you have to remember where this all started. The originating issue was the request for the fence. So we're having to take it bit by bit.
Right.
So it's a lot deeper than just, we're not trying to solve the bench and sleeping on the bench. We're trying to solve what brought about the fence request.